If you've become an alcoholic, the natural inclination is to blame yourself for literally everything. But the question is alcoholism your fault? Was it something you did? Was it your upbringing? Was it bad choices? Are you on autopilot consuming alcohol against your better judgment, against your will, and against your discretion? Or is there something else at play? Are you completely at fault? Are you literally kicking your own butt by your own hand by drinking alcohol over and over and over again, even though you know the result it's going to cause? Even though you know what's going to happen, you keep drinking. So the question today is, where does chemical dependency begin and the person end? Where does personal responsibility begin and where does the person end? What part do we have to play in our alcoholism? What did we do? How did we get here? Is it our fault? And more importantly, above all else, what can we do about it? Hey guys, I'm Marcus. Welcome to Talk Sober. Terry, what are your thoughts on alcoholism and whether it's our fault or whether it's society or the drink or the drug or whatever it is?
Well, hey Marcus, good to see you today. Anyways, for me, it's kind of a complex answer, really. And it's well, I started drinking when I was very, very young. Did I know that alcohol was going to become a problem in my life? Did I know, what happens when you drink too much alcohol over a long period of time? Of course not. I had no idea. I drank alcohol. It was fun. It was a way for me to socialize. It was in the first decades or whatever that I drank. It wasn't even an answer to my problems. It was fun. It was always fun. So was that really my fault? Nobody ever told me the dangers of drinking too much alcohol over a long period of time. I mean, I never knew that. So I was kind of clueless. So was it really my fault? I don't know. I knew I wasn't supposed to be drinking as much as I did. That's for sure. But I still had fun with it and didn't really see any long term consequences with it. So, in that respect, was it my fault? Well, maybe not. But then at the same time, I did start to realize the problems with drinking too much alcohol, and I didn't stop. Now, the disease or the illness or whatever you want to call it, it had started to take over my life, and I was addicted. Now, we've talked about how alcohol hijacks your brain. And so my brain was beginning to become hijacked as I went on through my drinking career. And so my decisions were being made from an alcoholic mind. So was that really my fault? Well, I am the one that was continuing to take drinks. I'm the one that continued to drink. I'm the one that would drink despite negative consequences. So, in that respect, I really do think it was my fault. Now, alcoholism has been classified as a disease or an illness or whatever, and there's a few people that would argue that maybe it's not, but I think that most professionals believe that it is, and I believe that I have it. But right now it's controlled as far as I don't drink anymore. So that's okay. If I was to start drinking, I would be right back where I left off. I've proved that to myself many, many times. And for me to keep the illness under control, I have to not drink. Now that right there is my responsibility. And if I do take that drink, that is my fault. And I can't blame anybody else. No one else is going to keep me sober but me. There can be a lot of people, a lot of influences in my life that can drive me to the drink, but it's still up to me to not drink. I have to keep that defense um, there. I have to stay strong, at least as far as my sobriety goes. And now, one thing I see with a lot of people when they're in early sobriety is they blame a lot of their problems, their not necessarily the alcohol, but their life problems on others. And really, that what I've learned in sobriety is, yeah, other people do, they can affect my life negatively, absolutely. But at the same time, I have control over myself and how I react and how I respond to other people. And that right there, when if I'm going to let something affect me negatively and drive me to a drink, that's my fault. I don't have to do that. I've seen people, I've gone through many of these situations, and I've seen people go through many of these situations where it might drive somebody to drink, but they've stayed sober because sobriety is their top priority. And they realize that if they start drinking again, they're just going to go down that rabbit hole. And so that's kind of the way that I see it as far as whether it's your fault or not. It's kind of a double-edged sword right there. No, it's not because it is a disease, but at the same time, it is. When you keep on making the choice to drink, even though you realize that, sobriety is necessary in your life, and it's kind of a hard thing. It's a really hard thing to grasp onto in early sobriety or when you're trying to get sober and you have to make that decision to stop. It's difficult, man. I didn't want to stop. I was afraid. I had massive amounts of fears before I stopped. And I finally had to make that step to stop. And I had to, for me, I had to admit to everybody that I knew that I was going to stop drinking. And that's just the path that I took. Some people try and do it quietly. I don't know how well that works for most. I don't think it does. It's usually easiest if you're pretty wide open with it, so you can get some support from other people. But that's what I did. I feel that my sobriety is my responsibility. So if I start drinking, it's my fault, man. So that's where I'm at. What about you, Marcus? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting echo on your. Got an echo. I don't know why it does that. It goes away after a minute. So yeah, I think it's interesting because there is a personal responsibility part where yes, you keep drinking. That is your choice to keep drinking. But then there's a chemical dependency part, which is like, okay, you are dependent on chemicals, which, now you kind of don't really have a choice after the first drink, which, I mean, even in sobriety, you never have a choice after the first drink because the first drink intoxicates you enough to where you can't see which way is up. And I think that asking the question of who is at fault or, why am I an alcoholic? I think to me it's a point that's going to take you in the wrong direction in sobriety. And I know it did for me. Like wondering why I was an alcoholic was only for the reason, if I'm honest with myself, it was only for the reason of trying to find out how I could safely drink. That was the reason. I was like, okay, if I could figure out why I drink, then I can solve that problem and I can continue to drink and I won't be an alcoholic. And that was very difficult because, I searched and searched. I almost ended my life in many times by drinking. And I was on this journey of whose fault is it that I'm an alcoholic? Is it my family? My grandma was an alcoholic. My dad didn't drink, but he had other tendencies. And there's all this other stuff. And it was crazy because I was like, okay, whose fault is this? And the answer is it's kind of like everybody and nobody's fault, right? So I think answering that question is a dead end, and it's an end that we don't need to take. I think we need to focus on what am I going to do to get sober? Now I'm chemically dependent. Now it's too late because if I'm watching channels like this, if I'm thinking about going to rehab, if I can't quit, then there is something stronger than me that's causing me to drink. Ah, interesting. Okay, so now what? What do we do about that? Um, and that is where I had to realize, okay, and I was at a meeting last night and they were talking about moral failures. And this is something that bothers me in a lot of recovery groups because the religion aspect of moral failures reminds me of when I was in the church and it was, we're degenerates, we're terrible, God needs to save us, blah, blah, blah. And I was sitting there thinking, I didn't say it out loud because, hey, it's not my meeting, right? And I'm thinking to myself, well, take the alcohol away and we're not that degenerate. Like I've known Terry sober for 10 years, a little over 10 years, and he's not that bad of a person. Like I don't think he's a degenerate. I don't think I'm a degenerate. When I drink, Yes, I do things that are not good, things I don't like, things I'm not proud of. But that's isolated to the drink. I'm sure, before Terry drank, he's just a normal person, just like me. Like, okay, we got our issues. We're a little prideful. We learn some things in sobriety that help us and help humble us, hopefully, right? But all in all, we're not like terrible. And it's like, okay, is it my character defects that make me an alcoholic? No, but solving character defects and working on yourself will help you not drink again. Right? I look at it in two different ways. I look at it as there is the drink, there's a chemical dependency, there is the alcoholism. Okay, that's in a box. Take that away. Marcus, Terry, we live normal lives. We're regular people. Are we great people? Who knows? But I think if you stay sober long enough, you'll have epiphanies and ideas and focus on personal growth. Unless you're sitting there like, oh, gee, I wish I could drink, but I can't. Okay. But if we're looking at it in this way, it's like, okay, there is the fault of the chemical dependency. But now that it's out of the way, yes, it is my fault. If I go and I drink, that would be my choice because the chemical is gone, right? It's been gone for 9.5 years or whatever it is. It takes a couple days to leave your body, I think a couple weeks or something like that. So then it is my choice. Now, why did I become an alcoholic and whose fault is that? Who cares? Fact of the matter is, I'm an alcoholic. That's it. Now what? And I think a lot of times we spend so much time on our past rather than looking forward and saying, what am I going to do? It's not to say don't fix things you did when you were drinking, don't repair relationships or whatever. Um, it's to say, you need to focus. You need to focus on getting sober. And I think the blame game is just a dead end for me. What do you think, Terry?
Oh, I agree. Absolutely. And that's one of the biggest takeaways that you guys should get from this is who cares whose fault it is? My fault, my parents' fault, uh, friend's fault. It just doesn't matter whose fault it is. The fact is, as Marcus just said, that I'm alcohol dependent if I drink. And right now, I'm not. I don't need alcohol, so I'm okay without it. But if I drink, I'm going to need it. At least I'm going to feel I need it, even though I don't really need it. But it doesn't matter what happened in the past as far as blaming other people. In fact, blaming other people is definitely a highway to going back to the drink, because then I'm going to ruminate. It's going to just spin around in my head. This person did this to me. This person did that to me. That's why I drank. Oh man, I'm still mad at them. No, no, let that go. That's what I have to do. That's what you have to do is people that you have resentments again, even justified resentments, you have to let them go. That's that's is the way to get free from alcohol and free from those thoughts that ruminate in your mind, is just let it go. And for me, it's looking forward. How am I going to stay sober? What am I going to do for sobriety today or tomorrow, the rest of the week? I can't just sit there and fight alcohol. And if I had to do that, I'd be drinking right now. And I don't fight alcohol, but I do work on sobriety. What am I going to do? Well, one of the tried and true tested ways is helping other people that are having problems with alcohol. Well, we have this channel. I go to meetings. I talk to other sober alcoholics. I hang out with other sober alcoholics, or I hang out with people that don't have alcohol problems. And I don't go drinking with them, but I do other activities with them, that sort of thing. Go hiking, biking, things like that. And that's what I do, is just try to be of service to other people. And that's what helps me a lot, is looking forward. What am I going to do for my sobriety today? That's a really important thing for me. And I think it's an important thing for sobriety is just gotta let go of the past. And that doesn't, as was just said, that doesn't mean um, not working on yourself. I have to work on myself. I have to remind myself, oh, don't judge this person. I'm not living their life. I don't know what they're going through. Yeah, they're angry. Oh, and I still have issues. I saw some, Yesterday I was following behind some guy in the big truck, and he's accelerating and blowing that black smoke, and then he did that right next to a jogger on purpose, and I was so mad at him. But at the same time, I gotta let that go. I can't go up to him and start yelling at him. It was rude, of course. And I think that's a justified resentment for somebody that does that to just a person that's just jogging along. But let it go. That person may be having a bad day. That doesn't justify doing that action, but I can't let that stuff bother me that much. Sure, I don't agree on it, but those are the types of things that those little things are the things that can drive a person back to a drink. For me, I just have to live my life, keep my side of the street clean, let other people worry about their side of the street, and try to help other people. It looks like we got some good comments here, and Nuke FPV. I don't have my glasses on. You said talk sober. How did you cope with the plateau after a few years, after the pink cloud disappears? I have an interesting answer to that question because I've heard of the pink cloud a lot. And if for those that don't quite understand it, what happens is a lot of fairly often people will get sober and they kind of get this pink cloud. They're happy. Life's great. Things are moving in the right direction. I'm getting better and better and better. And and then all of a sudden, your life kind of flattens out and it's not so exciting. The sober life is not exciting. It's kind of boring. And then some people will go back to drinking. Some people will just kind of be, not that happy. And for me, uh, 10 years coming up on for me. And I guess I'm still in that pink cloud. I have not plateaued. I'm still enjoying life. And that's because I do things in my life that are positive for me, for my family, for friends. Um, I participate in activities, and that's what I try to do. If I was just sitting in my home watching bad TV, yeah, that pink cloud would probably have gone away. But for me, I'm still on it, and I don't see it slowing down. I don't see a plateau coming. I just try to enjoy life. With that said, when everything got shut down in COVID, yeah, life became a little bit boring. But what I did is I purposefully tried to figure out things I could do. I could hike, I could bike. We weren't locked in our house. We just weren't allowed to go hang out with people, right? So I figured out what I could do. For meetings, I went to online meetings. There's still a lot of good ones out there. You guys can look and see if if that's sort of thing. Well, I would recommend anybody at least try the meetings, whether they think they help or not. I think they're a good idea to get different perspectives of sobriety and ways to handle it. But that's the sort of thing I do. And I did is actively participate in my own recovery and in my own life. And that's how you keep a pink cloud going on. So that's kind of what I've done. And that would be the I don't know, pink cloud never disappeared for me. So
Yeah, I
maybe I
think for me, the pink cloud was got an echo again. Every time I start talking, it seems to go there. Is there anything you change?
not since we started.
Weird. Okay. Yeah, so for the pink cloud, for me, I didn't really have one. Like the first couple months, first year of sobriety was very low. Like I wasn't super happy. I wasn't super pink cloud. I was just trying to get through it. Um, and so, and it wasn't really there. Now, am I on one now? Well, I mean, the last couple of weeks have been kind of not great, but am I glad to be sober? Yeah. Sometimes I'm super happy. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, hey, I'm really happy here. Sometimes not so much. I think it has to do with, what your life philosophy is, what you're expecting, and what you want. Um, but I think, looking at like, oh, there's a pink cloud or oh, this isn't, just enjoy the happy when it comes, and when it doesn't come, it'll make the happy that much better. Kind of like we wouldn't know happiness if we didn't know sadness. We wouldn't know sobriety if we didn't know uh, drunkenness, because every day we wake up sober, we're like, oh, wow, it used to be like this. It's not anymore. I'm happy about that. So I think that's interesting. Um, Victory says, I'm a teetotaler. I've never drunk. I've subscribed to your channel looking for information about alcohol. Okay, great. Let's see here.
Well, congratulations to VRI Outlaw 9 days sober and Aardvark 8 days sober. Good job, you guys. Those first days are hard, but equally as impressive, if not more. Well, equally as Nuke has got 3 years. Good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Congratulations. And Dave, we really do appreciate your comments and being here every week. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
Let's see. There was a couple other questions in here too. I saw.
my Victory. Some of your comments are coming through in a different language. That's why we're not commenting on them.
I'm trying to translate them. That's why I'm on this other screen, but it's not working as good. Um,
Oh, he's
let's see
writing through a
here.
translator. I see.
Yeah. Stumble upon you guys' channel. It could not have came at a better time. 51, lifelong alcoholic on day 9. All right, great. Yeah, remember that in the beginning, it's all about the chemical dependency. Like that's what you're fighting. It's new. What you're going to want to do is build up tools that are going to help you get sober and stay sober. Right? What tools can I use? What am I going to do when something bad happens? What am I going to do when I want to drink? Having those buffers and those tools is key. Even if you don't really like them in the beginning, I know a lot of people like they call their sponsor, they do this, they do that. Which I mean now, Terry, were you had sponsors and stuff, yeah?
I did.
Did you find yourself in the beginning? It was kind of like, wow, this little thing happened, but it's big, and I want to go drink. Whereas now you're like, yeah, I don't really need to call that often because I kind of handle things a lot better.
Yeah, I handle things a lot better now, definitely. What a sponsor was really good for is just showing me basically, what a good sponsor would do is now sponsors with Alcoholics Anonymous. So what they would do is explain the program and take you through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And what they will do when they're doing that is their job is not to analyze you. Their job is not to help you get out of debt, help you find a home, get you out of your legal troubles, give you advice on any of that stuff, give you advice on medical stuff. That is not their job. Their job is to show you how you can stay sober through Alcoholics Anonymous, and their job is to show you how they did it, not how other people did it, not how you should do it, but how they did it. That's generally what a good sponsor will do, is take you that way. And they're not supposed to be your friend. They may be telling you tough things you don't want to hear. But that's what I see as what a good sponsor will do, is help you get through it and help you stay sober. And it's not their job to keep you sober. It's your job. And they're going to tell you that right away, is that um, I'm not here. It's not my job to keep you sober. A sponsor's a reason people become sponsors is to help themselves stay sober. Because one thing Alcoholics Anonymous is big on is service and helping other people, helping other alcoholics, trying to carry the message, and that's what helps them stay sober. And when I'm helping other people stay sober, just like on this, is I'm reminding myself of the things that I need to do on a daily basis and how I need to live, and the things that I did before that weren't so good, that that kept me drinking. And so that's what I did. And my Victory, both Marcus and I, Marcus is a little over 10 years, and I'm a little bit under. I've just got a couple weeks left before I hit 10 years. So yeah, you
Don't want to
yeah.
go down the hangover withdrawal rabbit hole. It's hell. It absolutely is. Yeah, it's absurd. Um, Definitely don't want that. And that's part of the reason I don't drink. Still is because like, oh wow, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because I know if I drank, like right now, I went to bed at 4 o'clock last night because I just got way too much going on in my brain trying to catch up on work. We were out of town for a week. That was on the back of the other week. So yesterday I stayed up till about 4, and I just, I had coffee at 10 like an idiot. So I was up till 4 working, which is good. I got some things caught up. But today I don't feel good. And the way I feel is like a tenth of what a hangover was like. And when I had hangovers, I knew that the way to get rid of them was to keep drinking. Now, does that actually get rid of them? No. It makes it to where you're too drunk to know you don't feel good.
Right.
And for me, that was big because it started the cycle. Because now, like the way I feel from now is because I didn't sleep. I slept from about 5 to 9. It wasn't enough. Being 44 years old, it's not enough. It doesn't work. Back when I was drinking, it was very similar, and I never truly got that sleep, so I never felt good. So I kept drinking, which made me not get more sleep, which made me not feel good, which was a cycle over and over and over again. And you have to break the cycle. You have to detox, go to a doctor, figure out how to detox safely, and then once you get back on the path and you start doing better, that's when things start to change. But it
Yes.
doesn't change until that. And that's why people stay drunk for a long time, because they go out on the bender, they feel like crap, they know the solution to feeling better, and then it keeps going and keep going and keep going.
Yeah.
John's 57 days sober. Congrats.
Yeah.
Almost to 2 months. That's awesome. He says our talk videos helped a lot when he had temptations. Yeah, and those temptations, what I remember, and I was actually talking to someone about this recently, is I'm like, when you get tempted or have a craving, it's nothing more than a chemical impulse in the brain. It literally doesn't mean anything. It's just an itch, right? It's like, okay, do I need to take care of that? No. Nobody said I need to always get what I want. Um, and that's key, I think.
Yeah. And the question before that is, you will have a different answer than me, or at least slightly different. Nuke says, "Thank you for what you guys find, or what did you guys find helpful in building your emotional resilience without meetings, sponsors, or religion, i.e., therapy, books, meditation? What worked for you guys?" And so for me, my early sobriety was a lot of meetings and hanging out with sober alcoholics. But that wasn't it, because you're saying without meetings, and meetings are what I did. Um, and actually, the hospital group in those first 6-8 months, I went to a hospital recovery group as well. And the reason that was so helpful for me is other people that have gone through what I was going through, and they had a lot of answers as to what I needed to do to stay sober. And I think communication with other people, and it doesn't have to be in meetings, it just maybe with other sober alcoholics. A person that's not an alcoholic, they may not quite understand exactly what you're going through, and they may not have quite the right answers. And I know when I was drinking, some people would say, "Why don't you just stop drinking?" And I was just like, that they didn't understand that that wasn't a choice in my mind, even though it was. But that wasn't a choice. But the other thing I did, as well as meetings, which is I think more of the answer that you're looking for, is I started to do stuff in my life. I started to go back to the things that I enjoyed doing before alcohol was a big problem. I like a lot of outdoor activities, hiking, biking, hey, walking the dog. And that's what I got back into, exercise, stuff like that. I didn't really do much meditation. I didn't do many therapy or the reading the sobriety books or anything like that, other than the AA book is what I read and some of their material. But that's kind of what I did. And Marcus, what did you do? It's a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in early sobriety, I did the 90 meetings in 90 days. I went to those religiously, even when I didn't want to. For me, it added structure because I work from home, and I sat at home and drank. I had a keg machine in my office, and I had booze everywhere. And it was difficult. So I needed structure. I needed support. I needed to vent and talk about my feelings and what was going on. Um, I listened to talks and read books. I remember when I got sober, I had thought to myself, the best I have, all of my thinking and all my wisdom led me to a mental hospital and alcoholism. And I had to relearn everything. So I spent the first year. Luckily, I was in a place where I didn't have to work much for that first year. I worked a little, but not like I did before. And I took it easy and I learned and I taught myself how to think. I taught myself that I wasn't the center of the universe. One of the key things was, hey, I'm drinking over all these things that happened to me, these things that were done to me, and all of this stuff. Like Terry had mentioned what happened in 2020 and 2021 when all of us were locked up, in our houses globally. And had that happened when I drank, I would have talked about it in my own mind, like, I can't believe this is happening to me. And it's like, no, it's kind of happening to everyone on earth, not just you. I mean, I know King Marcus, it needs to feel important, but it's not really just happening to you. And things in life and things that happen everywhere. People get sick, people get old, people have tragedies, people have good things. It's all luck of the draw. And I found that before I got sober, and this is part of changing my life philosophy, before I got sober, everything was superstition. And what I mean by that is not like, oh, woo woo, this happened for the universe wanted it. No, it was more or less like, why does this happen to me? How does this always happen? Why am I a victim of this? Why me? Why me? Why me? And I started listening to a bunch of talks, Ram Dass, Alan Watts, several others, and they were talking about how life just happens and we're part of it. And then I started thinking about like like life, right? I was born here in America, relatively in a safe place. Average income where I grew up was probably $100,000. We weren't, growing up in mansions with yachts and stuff, but we didn't want. We never worried about food. We had good times, and I didn't choose that. I didn't choose where I was born. And where I was born gave me certain advantages and mindsets and opportunities that other people don't have. And there are people in other countries that are born in poverty. They live in poverty till they're 8 years old and they get sick and now they're gone. And for me to look at that and say, well, manifesting and get the life you want and pull the bootstraps and all this horse crap is to put in our talk today responsibility on me and all these other things, which is like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not good enough. I don't go to school enough. I don't work hard enough. I don't hustle enough. That's why I don't get what I want. And all in all, there are different walks of life. And one of the things that I learned in sobriety is that if I grew up in Terry's house as Terry and went through everything Terry went through, I would be Terry, I would think like Terry, and I'd make the same decisions Terry made because that is what programmed him to be there. It's how it works. You are a product of everything that brought you to this point. Now, and this is what I believe they talk about, tell me if you have a different view, Terry. Now, I think that fourth dimension of living that AA and recovery talks about, or born again, or whatever religion is, right? Whatever that switch is. Everyone talks about that change, that switch. What's going to happen for me to change? I think what happens in a true conversion of sorts, not talking about a religious one, but just a psychic change or whatever, is when you see past that. When you wake up and say, I have been programmed, I've been living this way. Much like alcohol. When you wake up and say, alcohol has caused me to think, feel, act, and want more alcohol and be the way I am. Okay, before I didn't know that. I was drinking, I was trying to quit. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And maybe you're like that. Maybe you're watching this and you don't know. I didn't know this till probably well into like a year and a half sober. And then I realized it is the alcohol. Now what? Now my responsibility is to not have it. And I keep going and keep going and keep going. And that change happens when you realize that you were on autopilot. When you realize I'm a product of my programming and now I've waken up. And some of my favorite movies to watch are dystopian movies. Like I like The Divergent, and there's another one also. That's along the same kind of line. The Matrix, these are the kind of things where it's like, you look at the Matrix and everyone thinks it's fun and cool and whatever, and say what you will about the acting quality. But you look at it and you're like, okay, well, what is it trying to tell us? Well, it's trying to tell us that we're all plugged in and we're all on autopilot. And we're
Yeah.
going into the world thinking that this is reality, but there are people out there that know it's not reality. I mean, the reality in your mind, the reality in your thoughts is not the reality in life. You are not experiencing reality if you are explaining and using words to create it. Right? I know people say our words create things. Yeah, in your mind they do, but not in the world. I can't say tree and have a tree appear. Not that important, right? And I remember years ago, my dad was trying to explain business to us. And my dad was a great guy. He loved business. And he was trying to explain to a buddy of mine who was from Arkansas, very uneducated guy, but fantastic guy. And the reason the uneducated is going to come in a minute because you'll understand it. My dad was also not very educated. He was 10th grade. But he was trying to explain to this Arkansas guy, people like me with businesses make the world go round. And I get what he meant. Hey, we're making the business world, we're making things happen, whatever. Okay, now I don't look at it so much that way, but back then he did, I did. And our Arkansas friend, in his accent, he's like, well, if you make the world go round, why don't you make it stop? I was like, wait a minute. That's pretty wise to think, okay, here we are thinking we are that important, but can I make the world stop for anything? No. Can I control more than one car on the highway? No. Are there things in my health that I can eat perfectly, exercise, do all the great stuff, drink water instead of pots of coffee, and I will still get it? Yeah. There are things beyond our control. And for some people, like me, I didn't want to give up control, which is what made me an alcoholic. Because I was afraid if I give up control, then what? Well, I realized that when I give up control, I gain more power in realizing that I don't have to worry about every tiny little thing. I do have to worry about my camera not working, though.
Oh, you're done.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you,
We'll
Marcus.
get you there. Yeah. And my camera's like,
um,
Marcus, you can shut up now.
Thank you, everyone. If you guys can relate to what we're talking about, first give us a like and subscribe. Definitely, we'd like to get our word out to more people. But also, if you relate to what we're saying, we have a program that talks a lot more about this, and it's over at talksober.com. And join us and go check it out. We have a private call. We have a private call coming in just a couple of minutes. And this person's going to meet with Marcus and I for an hour. You can sign up over at talksober.com or just join our program. And it's very inexpensive. And check us out. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
All right, guys, thanks for being here. Subscribe. Check out talksober.com. We got some free resources, and you can join the course by hitting the big yellow button and support what we're doing. Thanks for